Ladies and gentlemen, your life is not limited by your location, your education, or your past. It is limited only by your thinking. You are not what you went through. You are not your mistakes. You are not your environment. You are what you continually think about. And if your thoughts can be changed, then your future can be transformed. The most dangerous thing about a prison is not the bars. It's the belief that you belong there. Some of you have been living by default. Thinking patterns inherited from broken homes, negative environments, religious traditions that taught you to survive but never to dominate. You were trained to shrink, to apologize for your dreams, to think small so you wouldn't offend anyone's insecurity. But I came to challenge that software. You see, the mind is the gateway to your destiny. It is the battlefield where victory is won or lost. If you feed your mind with limitation, your life will produce limitation. If you train your brain to expect failure, failure will find you, even in success. Everything you are experiencing today is a result of the mental blueprint you've accepted. You are literally trapped or free by your own neural agreements. But here's the good news. You can rewire it. You can retrain your mind to think like the king you were created to be. You can deconstruct every mental stronghold and rebuild with truth, with vision, with power. But you must do it intentionally. You must do it daily. Your brain is not your master. It's your servant. And it's time to give it a new assignment. Everything you are experiencing right now, your relationships, your finances, your habits, your level of peace or anxiety is not just a reflection of what happened to you. It's a reflection of how you've been thinking. Your life is not controlled by what's around you. It is controlled by what's within you. The real battleground is not your neighborhood, your paycheck, or your past. It's your mindset. That's why two people can grow up in the same house, with the same parents under the same roof, and still turn out completely different. One becomes a leader, the other becomes a victim. Why? Because while one rewired their brain to think beyond what they saw, the other stayed trapped in the images of limitation that were handed to them. Have you ever asked yourself, why do I keep ending up in the same situation? The same kind of relationships, the same level of income, the same habits you said you'd break last year. It's not just behavior, it's belief. And belief is the product of thought. You're not repeating cycles because you're cursed. You're repeating them because your brain is still programmed to expect them. There are people who move to new cities, get new jobs, even join new churches, hoping for transformation, but nothing really changes because they brought the same mind with them. You can't change your life if you don't change your thinking. And here's the truth. Your brain is listening to everything you say, even when you're joking. Every complaint, every excuse, every statement of fear, you are reinforcing a blueprint your life will build from. If I gave you a brand new phone with all the latest features but installed outdated software, how well would it work? The screen might be shiny, the design might be beautiful, but it would still crash. That's many people today, gifted, anointed, full of potential, but crashing in life because the software of their thinking hasn't been upgraded. You can't live a new life with an old mind. Some of you have been planting negative thoughts like seeds for years, and now you're living in the harvest of that thinking. You think you're unlucky, but really you've just been rehearsing failure in your mind long enough for it to become your normal. Let me ask you something. What would happen if you changed the way you think for just 1 year? Not changed your job, not your clothes, not your followers, just your thinking. What would your life begin to reflect? You see, your brain was designed by the Creator to respond to repeated focus. What you focus on, you begin to believe. What you believe, you begin to expect. What you expect, you start to attract. That's why negativity is so dangerous. It's not just a mood, it's a magnet. We've been taught to believe that our surroundings are the limit, but the only true limit is your perspective. There are people who were born in poverty, who had no connections, no college education, and no privilege, but they refused to accept the image their environment painted. They rewired their brain to see something greater. They trained their mind to expect what they couldn't yet see. And eventually, their life caught up with their thinking. You can either keep replaying the same mental movie of fear, trauma, rejection, and scarcity, or you can change the script. If you want to see a different life, you have to think like the life you've never lived. That means challenging every thought that says, this is just how it is. Who told you that? Who gave you that boundary line? And why have you agreed with it for so long? Your reality is simply your thoughts made visible. If you want to shift your reality, the work starts inside. It starts by thinking intentionally, by speaking with authority, and by rejecting any thought that doesn't align with who you were created to become. Every belief you hold today was either taught to you or caught by you. You didn't come into the world doubting yourself. You didn't come into the world thinking you weren't good enough, or that your dreams were too big, or that success was only for other people. Those thoughts were introduced to you, and over time, they were accepted by you. The mind, like a sponge, absorbs what is exposed to repeatedly, especially in your formative years. The problem is, most people never stop to examine whether those beliefs were true to begin with. You see, limiting beliefs are often inherited, not chosen. They're passed down like family heirlooms, quietly, subtly, sometimes even wrapped in love, but carrying messages that confine you. Maybe you grew up hearing, that's just not how we do things in this family. Or, people like us don't go that far. Or, be careful not to dream too big, you might get disappointed. Sounds like wisdom, but in truth, it's a chain wrapped in concern. Have you ever looked at your life and felt like you were living in someone else's script? Like your choices, your fears, even your career path weren't really yours, but something you accepted without resistance? That's the danger of an unchallenged belief. It builds a prison with invisible walls. Walls you don't question because you've never seen life outside of them. But just because a belief is familiar doesn't mean it's correct. And just because it was taught early doesn't mean it has to stay permanent. Think about a thermostat in a house. It's set to a default temperature. No matter how warm it gets temporarily, the system will always pull it back to the preset level. That's how limiting beliefs work. You might have a breakthrough, you might start a new project, get a better opportunity, or move into a healthier relationship, but if your internal belief is still set to I'm not enough, or this won't last, or I'm bound to mess it up, then your mind will subconsciously bring you back down to match your mental setting. That's why change must be intentional. You can't drift into a transformed life. You have to challenge what you've accepted as normal. You have to interrogate every thought that shaped your identity. Who told you success was out of reach? Who said you weren't qualified? And why have you given those voices more authority than your creator? Intentional transformation means you stop living by default and start living by design. It means you stop asking, what do people like me usually do? And start asking, what was I sent here to accomplish? Because until you change your belief about who you are and what's possible for you, every opportunity will feel like a risk, and every closed door will feel like rejection instead of redirection. Some people spend their entire lives walking in circles, not because they lack talent, but because their mind has never been renewed. They've never dared to disagree with a voice that said, you can't. But greatness begins with disagreement. You must disagree with limitation. You must disagree with fear. You must disagree with anything that doesn't align with your original design. A transformed life doesn't come from wishing, it comes from rewiring. And rewiring starts by replacing what you inherited with what is true. The truth that you are capable. The truth that you are chosen. The truth that you are sent here with something the world needs. You have to choose daily to believe bigger, to think higher, to expect greater, because your life can only rise to the level of your dominant thought. The mind is not a playground, it's a battlefield. And the war is not fought with bullets or fists, but with thoughts, ideas, and imaginations. Every day you wake up, you're entering a war zone, not outside of you, but within you. And if you don't take control of your mind, something else will. Your past, your fears, your failures, your surroundings. The truth is, rewiring your brain is not just a choice, it's warfare. Most people are losing battles they don't even know they're fighting. They're not losing because they're weak. They're losing because they never showed up to the war. They've allowed every negative voice, every insecure thought, every painful memory to march into their mind and take residence. But you cannot win a war you're unwilling to engage in. You can't live in victory if you've surrendered in your thinking. Have you ever noticed how fast your mind can spiral? One thought, just one, can pull you from joy to anxiety in seconds. That's not random, that's a system. Your brain is wired to protect you. But without intentional guidance, it will prioritize survival over progress. It will amplify fear over faith. It will magnify threats instead of opportunities. And if you don't fight to rewire that response, your brain will keep defaulting to self-preservation. It's like a computer infected with a virus. You can still type, you can still open files, but everything's slower, corrupted, untrustworthy. You can't see the virus. It's working behind the scenes, but it affects everything you try to do. That's how mental strongholds operate. They don't scream, they whisper, and they sound like truth. You're not smart enough. No one will support you. It's safer to stay where you are. If you're not careful, you'll believe those whispers and start living beneath your design. But the good news is, your brain can be rewired. Not by accident, not by feelings, but by force. By daily, deliberate warfare. You have to take authority over every thought that rises against your purpose. You have to arrest fear like a criminal and interrogate it. Why are you here? Who sent you? What are you trying to stop me from becoming? You can't be passive in your thinking and powerful in your life at the same time. Something has to give. Scripture says to cast down imaginations, not manage them. That means you don't entertain every thought. You examine it. You don't let fear build a nest in your mind and call it discernment. No, you expose it. You confront it. And then you replace it. Because if you don't replace it, it'll return stronger, more convincing, more familiar. Your mind doesn't just need information, it needs transformation. And transformation requires confrontation. You've got to be willing to fight for your freedom. Fight for your peace. Fight for the kind of thinking that produces power instead of panic. Some people are waiting to feel better before they think better. But that's not how it works. You have to think your way into better. You have to speak truth even when your emotions don't agree. You have to declare what's possible even when your past is screaming, not for you. Because if you don't declare war on your limitations, they will become your lifestyle. So the question is, what thoughts have you allowed to sit in your mind unchecked? What fears have been masquerading as wisdom? What habits of thinking have been holding your future hostage? It's time to do more than just notice them. It's time to confront them and replace them. Because you're not just thinking thoughts, you're building your life thought by thought, brick by brick. Rewiring your brain isn't just about self-improvement, it's about reclaiming your original design. It's about fighting for the clarity, the creativity, and the courage that's already inside you, buried under years of mental debris. And that kind of victory doesn't come by wishing, it comes by war. Your brain was never meant to be the leader, it was designed to follow orders. But the problem is, most people let their emotions do the talking and their mind does the obeying. You were never created to be ruled by how you feel. You were created to rule by what you know. That's why vision must be your commander, not your emotion. Because emotions change with the weather. But vision stands firm even in the storm. Have you ever made a decision when you were afraid, only to regret it later? Have you ever let anger, insecurity, or doubt guide your next step? What happened? You lost ground. You moved based on a temporary feeling and ended up building something permanent on unstable ground. You see, your emotions are real, but they're not reliable. They are indicators, not instructors. They tell you how you feel, but not what is true. Think about a GPS. If you're driving to a destination, you trust the coordinates you entered, not how you feel during the journey. Even if you feel lost, if the system is accurate, you stay on course. Vision works the same way. When you've locked onto where you're going, your thoughts have a direction. Your words gain authority. Your brain receives its assignment, not from fear, not from fatigue, but from purpose. The danger of letting emotion guide your thinking is that emotions often arise from your past, but vision pulls you toward your future. If you're constantly thinking according to what hurt you, who left you, or what didn't work, then your brain will stay in survival mode, always protecting, always shrinking, always hesitating. But when vision gives the orders, your brain starts building differently. It begins to anticipate what hasn't happened yet. It begins to prepare for possibilities instead of only avoiding pain. That's why the battlefield of the mind is so critical, because what you allow to lead your brain determines the life your brain begins to construct. And if you don't give it a clear vision, your brain will default to emotion, whatever is loudest, whatever is most familiar, whatever is most recent. Let me ask you, what's been leading your mind lately? Are your thoughts shaped by your goals, or are they shaped by your wounds? Are you training your brain with direction, or are you just letting your feelings hijack your day? A biblical principle that speaks powerfully here is found in Proverbs 29:18. Where there is no vision, the people perish. That doesn't just apply to nations or organizations, it applies to your mind. Without a clear vision, your thoughts scatter. Your brain begins to panic. It has no focus, no anchor, no instruction. It begins to prioritize comfort instead of calling. This is why even gifted, intelligent people can live far below their potential, because they've never disciplined their mind to follow vision. They've learned to follow pressure. They've learned to follow people's opinions, but not purpose. You have to take back that authority. You have to sit your mind down and say, this is where we're going. These are the thoughts we will entertain. These are the words we will speak. This is the life we will build. You cannot afford to think randomly anymore. Your mind must be on assignment. Look at builders on a construction site. They don't just show up and start hammering wherever they feel like it. They follow a blueprint. That blueprint is vision. Every beam, every nail, every measurement is intentional. Your mind needs the same structure. When emotion flares up, when fear whispers, when doubt knocks, your brain should already be trained to respond with, "That's not in the blueprint." Rewiring your brain requires that you silence the emotional noise and let vision speak, not once, not occasionally, but daily. Because only when your thoughts are commanded by vision can your life begin to reflect the future you were created to live. Your life will only rise to the level of your thinking if you want to experience true transformation. It won't begin with your circumstances. It must begin in your mind. You are not a prisoner of your past, nor are you a victim of your environment. You are a designer of your destiny, and your thoughts are the tools. Rewire your brain to align with your purpose. Confront every limiting belief. Fight for your freedom, and train your mind to follow vision, not emotion. This is not a one-time event. It's a daily decision to think higher, to speak with intention, and to live on purpose. Because when your mind is renewed, your future is reborn. Thank you for listening. May you walk boldly into the life you were designed for. Stay focused, stay faithful, and stay free in your thinking. Good luck, and God bless you.